What's up everybody, Tom Fazio here. Welcome to the channel. If you're new, welcome back if you're not. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a lightness progression, a Qigong progression. Progression stemming from my lightness training. Lightness is the advanced protocol training within weightlessness, my mind-body peak performance process. I coach it if you're interested in that kind of training, link in the description. But 2 stages to the training. We've got mind-body conditioning all the way up from foundational to peak performance in the weightlessness spectrum. That's what we focus on in my programs. Lightness training is kind of a different beast. It's a little bit more advanced. Occasionally we integrate it, but it is pretty well articulated in my second book, The Essence of Lightness, if you're interested in these progressions. These are advanced practices. That's not to say that anybody can't try them, but it is to say that unless you have a foundation in meditation in general, Qigong in particular, this practice, this exercise, this video in particular, it may not do much for you. But if you've got some time spent, if you've got a few years in yoga, martial arts, mindfulness practice, or even Qigong, you might be able to dabble a little bit. And for those that don't, I do have all 3 progressions listed, labeled out. You can find them, in the channel, wherever they be. And they follow a natural order of development, right? So the first step, we did that in the first video, the hollow man practice, about accumulation, sending energy and accumulating that in the dantian, the lower abdomen, the seat of energy, within, beneath the navel. The next stage is once we filled the well, distributing that, circulating that throughout the small universe. And in this video, looking at channeling, how we might then send it to the extremities, the hands, the feet, for the purposes of martial arts or healing, right? So those of you that are into Reiki or other forms of healing, this would be a great asset to you. One of the problems with a lot of practices out there, in my opinion, is that there is no method. There is just presence, there is showing up to it, and then there is fingers crossed, wishful thinking. This actually improves the hardware that allows you to channel and distribute energy, incorporate it in those types of practices. Whether people realize it in those practices, they're doing the same thing. It's just whether or not they have a process to get there in the end. This is a hack in a way, okay? But it is a hack that requires a foundation. And so what I mentioned in the other 2 videos, mindful awareness or standing meditation. Standing meditation is the weightlessness kind of, it's the prime mover. It's the first order principle of meditation. It teaches us how to orient, how to structure our bodies, and if we can structure our bodies against gravity properly, we're able to find our natural symmetry, release all that tension that's required to keep us up above the ground. Don't need it anymore. Once we're without tension, the body starts to become alive with sensitivity. We can start to feel. We start to become a little bit more aware of those subtle energies in the body, those nuances, the movement of things within, right? Which a lot of times I've had people go through my programs and said, I didn't even know my body could do these things. They just weren't sensitive enough to it. They carried too much tension throughout the day. Sure, the mindfulness was great, but once we started these other practices, once the standing meditation was able to unlock that tension, right? And then they start to feel a little bit more and sense a little bit more, then we can start to work through these progressions and a whole new world of experience opens up. Pretty cool stuff. So this one, I'll admit, it's a little bit on the spectrum of esoteric. If you haven't built the foundation or had that experience of that kind of, cool fire in the abdomen, or that moment where that energy floods the body and you start sweating and you start to say, oh my God, what just happened? It's just like my channels opened up. I can just feel that energy flowing. If you haven't had those experiences yet, the other progressions are essential. So what do we do first? We fill the well, we distribute it, and then we channel it, okay? So for this practice, I call it the collapsing room practice, the visualization. You're in that Star Wars scene where, Luke and who else was in there? I think Leia, Chewbacca. Was Luke there? Luke was not there. Han Solo. They're in that garbage bin, right? The garbage chute, and the walls start collapsing in, right? Getting smaller and smaller. They're pushing, they're trying to jam the walls. That's you. You're in that room. The room is collapsing in on all sides. And what are we going to do? We're going to resist it, but we're not going to resist it with muscular force. One of the challenges within this, as I just mentioned, is that when there is tension, there is no sensitivity. When there's no sensitivity, there's no flow of energy. So when we resist the incoming wall, it's going to be with our mind, with our consciousness, and not with our physicality. We're going to combine some of the practices. So the hollow man practice that we used, kind of a Qigong 101 session, where the body is empty of all soft tissue, we're held up by our skeletal frame, we're going to implement that again. Right? There's going to be no physical tension. The muscles should be completely relaxed. You should squeeze them and they should fold in, right? Completely relaxed. And then as the wall comes in, we're going to resist it. We're going to resist with the mind. And what's going to happen is we're going to feel that sense of pressure come in. This can be even useful to have somebody kind of push the hand just so you feel what that's like without any tension, and then to be able to reproduce that sensation from within. This is really helpful if somebody's got martial arts or dance experience where they understand how to structure their frame against external force, but it's not necessary. Standing meditation is the next best bridge for that, okay? So, we're going to get into it. And like I mentioned within the other two videos, it's always good to establish a base, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of either standing meditation or hollow man practice in order to kind of, release yourself of tension, find your sense of symmetry, fill the well, and then work on that visualization throughout. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go through one of those other stages, kind of getting centered, looking at the preliminary kind of focus and filling the well. But what you really ought to do is get good at the other ones and then do those naturally before this session. And then we'll focus on the contents of the collapsing room practice. So as in the others, we're going to do this seated. It's a very, very difficult practice. That's why the foundation is required. But back should be unsupported, as always. The knees should be beneath the hips. So if you can do that cross-legged lotus style on the ground, great. If not, elevate the butt slightly. You can do it in a chair. You can do it by elevating the hips, a few inches and having the legs cross-legged. Lots of options there. But you want the legs folded in ideally or based well so that the hips and the spine is stable. Externally rotate the shoulders just to get that spine set. Drop them down. Hands can be in the lap. Head drawn up by the crown point, center of the head, and chin slightly down, right? In the other two, I introduced the tongue pressed up against the roof of the mouth just behind the palate and the perineum slightly tensing about halfway through the practice. This one we're going to start right from the beginning. Why? Because you got to have that experience anyway to start it. It's an all-the-time practice now. So the tongue is just pressed up gently against the top. That's what connects the governing and conception vessels in the body that helps us get that free flow throughout. The perineum is that muscle that we tense to stop from, when we got to pee, to stop from going to the bathroom, right? Don't need to tense it heavily, just slightly. And I also mentioned in the last video, if you can't do that yet without creating tension in the diaphragm, you're not ready for this practice. Like, that's a clear sign you're not ready for this practice. But if you can coordinate that, remain relaxed, the chest is relaxed, you're breathing purely with abdominal breathing, diaphragm is not getting tense or contracted, no constriction in the abdomen here, and you're breathing with the lower abdomen, okay, maybe ready, right? Hit all those cue points, eyes closed, head drawn up away from the shoulders, shoulders down and back, hands in the lap, spine relatively neutral, tongue pressed up, perineum slightly tense. And we're going to spend the first few breaths just bringing our attention to the abdomen, to the dantian, 2 inches beneath the navel, 2 inches within the body. And breathing in. And out. In. Out. In. Out. And carry on for a few more breaths. And for the next few breaths, we're going to visualize that air coming in through every pore in the body, the hollow man practice. feeding that bead of light or energy in the dantian. With every inhale it grows, with every exhale we contain it. And breathe in, out, in, out, in, out. Carry on for a few more breaths. And now lift your hands out in front, elbows bent, palms facing out, fingers relaxed. Continue the same breath a few more times, focusing on the abdomen. Okay, while maintaining that hollowed frame, the shoulders down relaxed, the biceps, triceps relaxed, the palms relaxed. Upon exhale, we're going to release the perineum and we're going to push against the wall that's coming toward us. Now, we're not going to move. The hands are already against the wall, but the force of the wall starts to increase. And we're going to resist that without creating any tension in the frame, in the muscles. We're going to resist with our mind and we're going to be pushing back for 3, 2, 1. Relax and breathe in. Breathe into the dantian, tense the perineum. And the wall is pressing again. Relax the perineum and resist the wall with the mind. The center of the palms become warmer, more focused, energy flowing from the dantian up the spine, through the arms, out through the palms. 3, 2, 1. Breathing into the dantian. And out, resisting the wall for 3, 2, 1. And breathe in. And out. Resist. 3, 2, 1. And in. And out. Resist. The wall's pressing harder and harder. Resist. And in. And out. The third eye begins to get engaged because of the concentration. Energy flowing to the third eye, energy flowing out through the palms. 3, 2, 1. And into the dantian. Relaxed, hollow. And resisting the wall. It's pressing in on you. And breathe in, relax. Carry on. palms and your attention back to the dantian. Soften your attention, allowing your consciousness to expand throughout the body, feeling, sensing throughout the body, your hollow frame. Returning to your natural breath, alive with sensitivity. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, gently massage the eyebrows and the temples, rolling forward and pressing the point just behind the ears, gently pulling the lobes and massaging the fingers down the front of the neck and drawing forward from the back. Okay, we made it. So, if you've got that foundation with the other practices, guys, I would encourage you, regardless of how this one felt, to keep trying it. It's a very difficult practice. First things you'll notice, the shoulders and the arms start to get pretty heavy. They start to get pretty sore. You feel that lactic acid build up. That's something that has to get trained through, right? My early training in Golden Bell Qigong, the first 3 weeks were just trying not to, complain about your arms feeling on fire and burning. And even though this is not, what we're practicing is not a Golden Bell structure, the arms are still out and it still starts to burn after some time. So you got to get beyond that even to have the focused practice, right? You'll also notice the coordination between, receiving or inhale and exhale, sending. It's complicated at first. It takes practice to start to coordinate this. But, ways of modifying it, I'd recommend you do it as I did in the video without too much change. But one thing that can start to happen is if you start to feel that the well or the energy well starts to get fired up pretty quickly in your practice, and it will. The more you do it, as soon as you start to close the eyes, you'll start to feel that energy start to flow in a different way. If that's you, you may be able to direct your attention fully to the hands and not have to worry about that entire cycle and just deal with this, right? As you're breathing in, the wall is slightly moving away from you and you're relieving that pressure. As you breathe out, the wall is coming back in, so you're only focused on the palms or the hands. That's okay too. If the well is full and now your attention is here, it'll go where it needs to go. You don't always have to direct it like we did in small universe practice. Eventually, it'll flow to that point of focus. Focus is here, so it flows. You might have noticed in this session, maybe not, but you might have noticed that the hands start to shake. That's a good sign. The hands might start to heat up. That's a good sign. These are points where there is literally more electromagnetic activity going on in the palms. We are sending that energy. I used the metaphor in the last video of, look, everybody's a Qigong expert in some ways. We go to the gym, brain says signal to bicep to curl, to pull the forearm up. That's sending an electrical signal from the brain down the spine into the bicep to contract the muscle. That's what Qigong practice is, minus the muscular contraction. We are just trying to send our attention to certain parts of the body. Energy will flow, bioelectric activity will follow. Okay, that's all we're really after. And so, at the end of the day, practice is practice, get more of it in. And, once you learn the foundations of the practice, you'll naturally start to discover what you need to do that's best for you to be able to modify these and experiment. But I would recommend at least 4 weeks of strict practice for all of these without deviating. And then ask yourself, what do I feel? Where could I be more open? Where could I change this or that technique? How could I breathe a little bit differently? There are techniques for reverse abdominal breathing. There are techniques for increasing tension in order to direct more energy, just in the way that we might do a curl. In the martial arts, sometimes we'll tense. But what does that do, right? It increases the electric activity in the hand. Anyway, we relax. Well, it's still kind of energized. We can feel that. And when we start to breathe through it and relax, energy will flow there, right? So there's a lot of things that can be incorporated, but these foundations, I think it's enough. I mean, I've practiced probably dozens and dozens of different models and methods. These are my own kind of innovations from them, but they're very simple. And if you do them conscientiously, they'll unlock all the doors that you're looking to open. And you might have even noticed that if you've already kind of opened the dantian and the well is open, and then you've done small universe practice, or you felt the third eye begin to engage and that little bit of that kind of energetic tension in the forehead. But when you're practicing that next progression, these kind of light up without that attention anyway. It just is kind of an instant connection. And I've heard this from my clients over and over again. They say that as soon as they start the practice, the system just fires up, right? They don't even need to go back to the previous progressions. Why? Because those practices are alive in the current practice, okay? So that's, in a way that's good. It's time saving as long as we keep up. But yeah, without ranting for ages and ages, I think that's good enough. Any comments, drop them in the comments section. Again, I do have these progressions listed and detailed in my second book, The Essence of Lightness. It's a phenomenal resource for those interested in peak performance, mind-body integration. It's a beast of a book that consolidates not only my decades of experience, but also my method and model of personal growth. Check it out, link in the description. If you're interested in joining a tribe or the training itself, also link in the description. That's at weightlessness.co. And until the next time, guys, be weightless.